Hello everyone, it's Jennifer here. Today's video is for the Simon Says Stamp blog hop for their spring release, and I'm going to show you how to use some of their new products to create a die cut stencil and also something fun you can do with Inktense pencils. Now if you don't have these supplies, you can use some other things that you may have on hand, but I use them to create this card here. Just some fun watercolor triangles in the background and also a mix of stamped images for the greeting. So I'm going to start by doing my stencil. I have this great new die from Simon Says Stamp. It does a full card background of lots of triangles, so it covers a card perfectly, but I'm actually going to use it to die cut a piece of scrap transparency that I had from some packaging. I'm just creating a stencil. So you could use this stencil to do mists or inking, but I'm going to use it with my watercolor pencils. So I'm just going to run this through my die cut machine. Any die cut machine works with these dies. And here you can see I end up with a plastic, thin, clear transparency that is perfect as a stencil. So I'm going to pop out all those triangles, and I'm also going to run that die through again with some scrap paper. And I used all the little triangles to create my pattern. This is like my sketch. I just took a piece of scrap note card and a bunch of those little triangles. I'm just arranging them. This is just going to be my cheat guide as I make the card over on the right. So this is just little scraps glued together to use kind of as my sketch. So I have my stencil here, and I'm going to first draw pencil lines that guide where my greeting will be. I want to leave a space for the greeting. And I'm using this just so I can end up starting out with my triangles all lined up nice and straight above and below the greeting. So I have some Inktense pencils here. This is from the Brights pack that Simon Says Stamp sells. It's just a great variety of trendy colors, lots of bright colors here, and you'll see them in a moment. Inktense pencils are a unique kind of pencil in that they're kind of like a watercolor meets pencil meets ink meets paint. When you mix it with water, it's very vibrant, so you can go really soft or really vibrant. A lot you can do with these pencils, and I've done lots of videos for them, and I'll link to those on my blog also. I'm just going to start by taking my stencil, and I'm picking a triangle here, and I'm going to mimic what I have, the pattern I have over on the left. And I'm just filling in the area very quickly with some of the Inktense pencil. I'm not putting much down. You don't need a lot here unless you want a super dark, intense color. I'm just going to quickly color it in. This is the gray color that's included in this variety pack. And I'm just going to start tracing down all of these triangles that you see on the left, but onto my watercolor paper panel, which is on the right. You can use regular cardstock with these pencils, but I like the watercolor because it just gives a nice watercolor look with lots of depth and dimension when you're done. So I'm just going to keep tracing all of these onto the watercolor paper. Now these pencils, if you don't have these pencils, they're super fun to use, but you could use regular watercolor pencils, or you can use anything here. You can use some inks, you can use your Copics, you can use whatever you have on hand. I just wanted to use these Inktense pencils because they're very vibrant in color. They also work great on dark colored cardstocks. The color shows through even on dark colored cardstocks. So again, I said this is the variety pack from Simon Says Stamp called Brights. They have 3 different variety packs of some of my favorite colors mixed together so that you don't have to guess which variety pack to get. They put some together with some great colors. This is the Brights, which has a lot of fun, trendy colors. So I started with the gray and I added a blue, and this is like a purplish pink color that I'm adding now. So I'm just going to go ahead and cover the card using my stencil and lots of different colors here, just mimicking the pattern or the sketch that I have there on the left. After I've done this top part, I'm going to go ahead and go to the part below where I've left room for my greeting and fill in triangles there. I love making stencils like this from my die cuts because you can use them over and over again. You can use them with mists. You can do whatever you want with these. And I just keep pieces of plastic that I have left over from packaging for creating stencils just like these. Now I've created my little scribbles of watercolor here of the Inktense pencils. I'm just spraying some water on my craft sheet, and I've got a baby wipe here ready to clean my brush, and I have a watercolor brush from Ranger. You can fill this with water and just use it as a brush that way, but I find I have more control if I just dip it into the water and then add this onto the Inktense pencils that I've done, the scribbling that I've done. So I'm just going to clean my brush here and pick up a little bit of water and then just scribble right over some of the scribbling that I've done on the card. And you can see how quickly you get really intense color when you put the water against these Inktense pencils. So I'm just going to color this in. Now I'm not being real careful to keep this a perfect triangle because I want it to look a little bit hand painted. So I'm just doing it very quick and easy. And you can see how quickly the color blends and becomes very vibrant. It's almost like a paint and water mixed together, but it started with something that's like a pencil. Now I want this to dry very kind of watercolory and splotchy, so I'm going to go ahead and just add some water to all of these pieces. So you see I've colored in all these triangles, and I'll put a little bit of extra water on with my brush after I've colored each of them, so that it really becomes kind of like a triangle-shaped puddle of color, and when it dries on this watercolor paper, it'll just be absolutely beautiful. So you can see I've colored that one in, and then I went back and added a little bit extra water onto it, just so that it dries with a watercolor look to it. So I'm going to go ahead and color in all of these with some water, and this last one is the Scarlet Pink. It's kind of like a pinkish orange, it's kind of a coral color that's really pretty. And once I've completed these, I'm going to give it some time to dry. Sorry, my dog's barking in the background. I'm going to give this some time to dry, or if you're impatient like me, you can just zap it with a heat gun and you'll have beautiful watercolor very quickly. So you could imagine using lots of different die cut shapes to create your own stencils, then just scribble in the lines with your watercolor pencils and add water, and it looks like you've watercolored this pattern on your own. So next I'm going to go ahead and show you how I did this little border piece here. You see that kind of purplish pink border? I wanted it to be a perfect match to the watercolor, so I'm going to create my own watercolor strip. Just putting some adhesive on the back of this watercolor paper, gluing it to my work surface so it doesn't move while I'm working, and I'm just going to lightly scribble some of that purplish pink color pencil, or I'm sorry, the Inktense pencil, over this entire piece here, so I can quickly change the color to perfectly match the project that I've already done, all those little triangles that I've already done. Now you could fish around and find some cardstock that would match this perfectly, but I find that it's easier if I just create my own, and then I know it's a perfect match. So I'm just quickly rubbing some color over it. Just going to get my water here and just brush back and forth. And you can see how if you don't use a lot of color and you use a lot of water, you can get really light color with these Inktense pencils. However, if I would have put more color down, you can get really vibrant. So I'm starting light here, and I decided this happens to be too light. So what I'm doing is actually using the water and the tip of my pencil to pick up more color. So I can apply more color to this and make it more vibrant. Now it looks splotchy and there's little bubbles here, but as those dry, those will go away and you'll end up with a really nice watercolor look to that border piece. So I trimmed this piece down a little bit to leave room for the panel on the side, that little border strip. And I'm going to put some foam adhesive down so that piece that I created there, the border, is raised up a little bit from the rest of the card. So I'm just going to turn the card on the side so I can lay this piece down flat on my table and make sure it's lined up perfectly with the edge of the card. And I've got that added to the side there. And I think that little pop border raised up just gives it a little bit of interest. Now for the greeting, I've actually taken a bunch of different words from these two stamp sets from Simon Says Stamp, and I've cut them apart with my scissors. Don't worry, you can always arrange them back how you wanted to. And I'm going to just stamp a variety of words together in this open area using some black ink. I love to mix up different fonts and different words from different greetings. It's just a great way to get more out of your stamps. So I'm using my favorite black ink, which is the Hero Arts Black Dye ink, and I'm going to stamp this into the center here. Now after I've done this, you'll notice that I did a lousy job stamping. I didn't ink these stamps up well enough before I stamped them, but that's okay. What I'm going to do is go ahead and fill in any areas that didn't stamp wonderfully with a black pen. That's one of the great advantages of stamping your greeting with a black ink. If you don't stamp it well, like the H and A aren't very good here, I can just go in with my black pen and fill it in. Next, I'm going to stamp the word amazing. This is from one of the bigger greetings, and I cut this one apart. And then I'll stamp my and friend along with a tiny little heart. These are all from those two stamp sets from Simon Says Stamp. This is a great way to get more out of your greetings. And then here I'm just going in with the black pen and filling in anywhere that I didn't stamp well. So I decided that this needed some more black on it, so I just added a thin black cardstock strip to that border piece that we did there. Just kind of pulls it together and keeps it nice and bold. So I hope you enjoyed this video. It's just a fun way that you can get more out of your die cuts to create stencils, and also another use of the fun Inktense pencils. If you have any questions, please visit my blog, jennifermcguireink.com. Thanks for watching.